So thank you for taking a minute out today. It's great to meet you. I appreciate it.
Oh, I'm delighted to be here and
Me
talking
too.
to Missouri. It's
Yeah,
great.
yeah, it is. It's that's the beauty of the technology. So I always begin with this question because I don't think we fielded it enough, and it's
Hmm.
the pandemic 6 years ago. I think all of us are still trying to figure out what happened. How did you get through that era, and how has it changed the way that you do things today?
Oh, wow. It was, I would say for me, probably one of the major pivot points in my life. And I was winding down my corporate career. I had my own consulting company at that point. And it was, I watched, let's divide it between 20 and 21, right? Vaccine, pre-vaccine, post-vaccine.
Yeah,
And my daughter had just gone off to university, and I had family, friends, clients that were going through, it was horrible for them. I mean, it's just their whole lives were being turned upside down. And my clients' contracts slowed, so therefore my work as a consultant slowed. My daughter was at university. She opted to stay down there. So I had more time than I'd ever had in my life. So what I did was start to look around to be useful. I had been a Red Cross volunteer for many years, but this was more something I wanted to do. So I helped a lot of businesses get those pandemic loans, those small business loans. I just went from Wall Street to Main Street. And I started poking around on social media, which I'd never had time to do before as a single parent. And I found a community of 470,000 single parents that were talking online. And I started listening. I had done a lot of professional moderation in my consulting life of focus groups. This was the largest one I had ever encountered. And what I found was a lot of people that weren't there to rant or complain. They were people that wanted to ask each other for solutions, and they had questions. And everybody, I was now on the other side of raising my daughter. She was off to university. So I started contributing, and I just kind of tiptoed in because I didn't know, what the voice was, how to talk to people. And people would ask questions, and I had a lot of the answers. One, my background was in finance. Two, I had been a management consultant, which meant I had a fancy way of saying I help people solve problems. So I had a framework. And three, I was a single parent. And two things jumped out at me. One was that it was very well received. I got a lot of likes. I
yeah,
didn't know what that meant. And the other thing was that people didn't know the basic information I was putting there. How to, construct your finances how to make time when you have none. There was things that I just took for granted because I'd been doing them so long that I realized other people hadn't developed that skill set yet. So out of that, when somebody asked me where can I read about being a single parent, I realized that despite the fact that it's about 40% of households in the United States, there is no fact-based reference book. So I wrote it with the help of those 470,000 voices.
yeah.
It took me 4 years.
Wow.
Yeah.
So talk to me a little bit about when you look at your career. If I was to put you in front of a bunch of 13-year-olds at career day
Mhm,
and someone wanted to get a snapshot of your career that led up to this book, how would you
mhm.
explain your career?
That I took skills that I learned from various jobs in my past and put it together so it could help people solve problems. And now I do that through writing books.
So what did you want to be when you were 12 or 13 years old? What was your ultimate dream job?
At 12 or 13, I wanted to be a scientist. That lasted about a year. And, and the irony is, my daughter became a scientist. So I guess somewhere in there that gene carried on.
Yeah,
Yeah, it is interesting that when you look at the sciences and how there's actually sort of biology is female dominated and chemistry is more male dominated. It's interesting how I think it's how we learn differently,
yeah.
right? I think it's that way.
Yeah. So what were the building blocks growing up? Are you originally from Boston?
I'm actually from the Midwest as well,
Okay.
originally. Yeah,
Okay.
that's simpatico.
Okay. Yes.
I was born and raised half in Wisconsin, north of Milwaukee, and then at that critical juncture of being like 13 years old, we moved to the eastern part of Long Island. So again, you and I intersect in a number of ways, right?
Yeah.
And I stayed there till I was 17, and then I moved up to Boston. So I had all three different regions at very different kinds. My parents divorced in a very contentious divorce when I was 13, and it was not common in those days. So as far as, watching someone go through it, it was my mother was a single parent. My father lived in the city, and so we didn't see him very often. And, getting to know what worked, what was hard, what was different. And, nobody grows up wanting to be a single parent. No, I haven't heard that from anybody saying that as a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
But I think that there's enough diversity in the population that everybody can learn from each other doing that. And my family is extraordinarily into education. And so you go back many generations, you'll find people will have gone to school, primarily professionals, you know, through life. So what was different was when I came out of college, there were very few female professionals. And not only was my mom had been a professional, but my grandmother was one of the first women lawyers in the country. So there was an assumption that you were going to go and become some kind of professional.
Yeah. So who was an inspiration for you? Who ultimately was a guiding light for you to find your way to where you're at today?
I'd say I had a composite inspiration. There are people in your life that motivate you for one thing or the other. I would say there was very strong expectation growing up that you would go, get a degree and go into a profession, right? And that a lot that primarily came from my paternal grandparents. And there really was no cutting it one way or the other. And I would have to say that if I were to say there was an expectation, because we all get expectations as we're growing up, that was fairly strong. I was lucky that I was good at school. Um, I have three siblings, and they all have some various form of learning disability. So, in watching my mom manage that with them in those days, right, in this mid-century, um, and they all ultimately became very successful in their own right in what they did. So when my daughter was born, and I could tell by the age of 3 that she had the family gift of dyslexia, this was like no-brainer for me.
Yeah.
All right, action.
Yeah.
Who do you get? Who are the specialists? How do you read on it? How do you work up for it? So acquired data is a big motive, is a big action to take.
Yeah. So when you look at the landscape of people that have gone through maybe some similar things that you've gone through the world of business and writing a book and just all of the things that we have to go through in our lives to evolve to where we are, is there anybody you would like to meet, have a lunch with, that pick their brain that might help you on your journey?
Yeah, I would say Obama.
Yeah.
I actually recently listened to his two autobiographies,
Yeah.
and one was written way before he became president, maybe when he was thinking on it. But the story of his childhood and raised in Kansas near you,
Uh-huh.
right?
Yeah.
So what his mom had done to try and make it as a single parent. They were, living in the Philippines for a while, coming back and having his grandparents in his house, and accomplishing what he did with absolutely everything stacked against him, with the exception that he had these grandparents that were, and his mother that were so committed to him being the best he could be. And then finding out he had all these siblings later on. I mean, and and still doing it with grace and courage is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, I'd like him to write the foreword for my book.
Yes.
If he's listening, he
We put
single
it out there in the
parents.
universe. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Single parents could be, there's the other person who went ahead and did it. But the celebrities are a little less
Yeah.
influential to me. They just have so much more money and support than most of the people.
Yeah.
But Mindy Kaling was probably one that I felt was more genuine,
Yeah.
than a lot of them. She's from around this area where I live now.
Yeah. Yeah. So what is it that gives you the energy to do this work, to take care of your soul? What motivates you every day to wake up to do this work?
I love learning different things. And every time that I had a client and they were in a different industry, I had to learn that industry to help them. So I guess that's part of my DNA. I have a very strong service bend as well. Nobody makes money writing books, right?
Right.
So you have to be doing it for another reason. And for me, it's a passion. There was no book for a sizable portion of the population. And we might ask, why isn't there a book about it? Why is this the first one? I think that has a lot to do with a lot of stereotypes that, if I can make some dent in dispelling that stereotype, most single parents, if you look at the census data and drill down, first of all, men are way undercounted because they only count one adult in a family group, right? So if there's a joint custody or shared custody at some point, only one parent gets counted. So the official count's 19 million. And then you start drilling down into it. Most of them make solid incomes. They're not all broken, and they're not all living off the government, which is that Ronald Reagan stereotype that got ginned up. And we just make it incredibly hard for them to get help at different points.
Yeah.
And it doesn't need to be that hard. I do not have any faith that there will be a federal solution to the mixed basket of benefits and things that come through. I do believe that on a local level and a private-public partnership with different companies could help both the companies that are hiring single parents and the people who have to work there. So there's some kind of social change that I'd like to see happen there. On a micro level, I really like helping people. And if this can make one person's life easier because I've hacked the system and I'm sharing it with them, on ways they can do it and give them a skill set to do that, I will die happy.
Yeah. Yeah. So let me ask you this. If you were to have a dream tonight, you ran into the 18-year-old version of you and you walked into a room and you played a short film, there was a projector, and it was the
Uh-huh.
life that you've lived. Would
Hmm.
your young version believe that your life turned out this way?
Yeah,
Yeah.
probably. Did
Would
you
you?
did you ever? There was once a joke, and it's some TV show. It says, "What do you do if your real life exceeds your dream?"
Yeah.
And I think it was Billy Crystal turns around and says, "Oh, it was from the show um, network or whatever." Billy Crystal turns around to Bill Hurt and says, "Keep it to yourself."
That's right.
That line, I'll forget it. Now, I guess I always had the confidence that whatever I ran into, I could do, and I could
Yeah.
help other people do it too.
Yeah.
I don't know. Do you get any other arrogant guests like that?
No, 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 no. I've never gotten anything. No, it's always been real either yes or no. But I think that people dream big, and I think we all will exceed some level of what we thought life would turn out to be, just because there's so many things that are different from when we're 18 to right now. Like we're in a whole different reality. There's so
Yeah.
many other things that are different about what we're doing. But I think it's about navigating and finding your way through all of that. We're all a bunch of surfers, and the water's never for sure.
I do think now that you ask about it, when I was 18, I was convinced all the way through college that I was going to go into nonprofit management.
Okay.
Um, but I wanted to run it. I didn't want to be like ground person at all.
Yeah.
And nobody was going to hire me at 22 to run Lincoln Center. So,
Right.
so I
Yeah.
went and took a job in a bank.
Yeah. Yep.
So thank you for reminding me of how
That
life changes.
Yeah, that's another part of this journey is that there's always these little pivot points that sometimes get buried in the Rolodex of life. So let me ask you this. If you were to walk into a room of everybody that's known you in a business sense throughout your career, and you
Hmm.
could walk to a podium and tell them a fun story about your life, maybe the first concert you went to, one of the best sporting experiences you ever witnessed, a wonderful place you traveled to, just a fun story that might
Hmm.
humanize you a little bit to that room. What would be a fun story you would tell that room?
Oh, I would say the 50 state tour with a teenager.
Yeah, yeah,
I took my daughter and through well, we got cut off at the pandemic, but it's state number 47. But we took our vacations and not a lot of money floating around. So we took driving vacations around the United States to different areas and different towns because she had said, we live in a bubble in New England. I go, yeah, we do. Everybody looks like us, talks like us, walks
yeah.
like us. So we went on our journey. And that is, I can't tell you, I can't think of a bad time we had or any crisis or anything that the whole trip.
Yeah, that's
That's
amazing.
I recommend that to every parent.
Yeah, that is amazing for sure. So, of everything that you've done along the
Mhm.
lines of what you just talked about, of everything that you've done, accomplished, and evolved to, what are you the happiest about, the proudest of?
Well, raising a child who's independent,
Yeah,
right? And that's for me. It's going to be different for someone that might have different challenges. And so your goal should be to raise a child to the best of your abilities and the child's abilities. And, find the happy median there. And my daughter had a lot of learning disabilities we had to work through on this journey. It was no walk in the park. And, she saw me working all the time, so I guess she developed some kind of perseverance. It was her role model. But that was really hard. It was harder than college. It was harder than being the first female on Wall Street. It was harder than anything else. Um, and in the end, much more personally rewarding, I think, than the external ones. What about you?
I, I think I went through a huge transition in my life about 10 years ago,
Hmm.
and I just thought I was going to be the single parent of a son that was on the spectrum.
Hmm.
And I decided to fall in love again. I decided to get into the process and I remarried and I've rebuilt things and my life has gotten to a different place. And I just didn't think that was going to be it. And I think that's the fallacy sometimes of the human mind is that when you go through something that's pretty heavy, anything, it could be anything, that you decide that you'll never do it again. And I think there's something to be said about going back in because we can always do it in a different way. We can always approach it.
That's beautiful. I'm gonna record that. Oh, you're recording it.
Oh, we're recording right now.
I know, because we were thinking there, say you didn't give up.
No.
You didn't give in to the challenges that you had there.
Yeah.
It sounds like you kept going at them.
Yeah, you just have to, and there's a lot of things that were scary, not only navigating relationships, but everything else that you do with your life. But you
Hmm.
just got to go in with conviction. And I think that's the beauty of aging on this planet is that hopefully you've accumulated enough wisdom that that's the wind beneath your sails instead of the fear that's a part of everything. Like I always think as I've gotten older, when I look at the people where life is really hit them hard and they haven't recovered, it's always around processing a death.
I see.
And I remember early on in my life, I lost my best friend when I was 16. He was 17. And he had
Oh,
chronic issues. He was in and out of the hospital. When we were kids, he'd come in and hook an IV up to him, and it was just regular. But it just got to the point where, he passed on. And I remember processing that at a very early age. But I've seen other people lose seminal people in their lives. And it's the buoy that's gone. They can't find their center.
yeah. Well, that is a big risk too. So the largest reason for people becoming single parents in the United States is divorce.
Yeah.
And it's a loss. It's a huge loss. And for parents that became, gave up on their dream of having a partner, no matter what the reason, how they got there, whether it was death or divorce or abandonment or whatever reason, or going solo. That's a change in expectation. It's a huge loss.
Yeah.
And I think that doesn't get acknowledged enough. And I think it's pretty hard to move on
Yeah.
if you haven't acknowledged that loss. And it sounds like you spent your time in the neutral zone. You sat with it
Yeah.
for a while, and then you said, what's next? What do I want?
Yeah.
And we talk about that in the book a lot, of setting your goal. And there's lots of people, you have a lot of these people on your show who, can coach you through that or set you through that. But inside yourself, setting what your goal is, and then looking at everything you do during the day, no matter how mundane, and saying, is this taking me in the direction of my goal? And those goals
Yeah.
shift, right?
Yep. Yep. They
They
certainly do.
change, or it
Yeah.
didn't work, or you're going to do something differently.
Yeah.
Right?
That's it.
So,
Being self-reflective. Because,
yeah, and then taking action, right? And kind of one thing to sit there and, journal your way to gratitude or whatever it is, but you
yeah.
got to take action at some
Uh-huh.
point. And this small thing, and you can accomplish a lot a little bit at a time.
Yep. You certainly can. You certainly can, because it's a journey. So let me ask you this. At the end of the
Uh-huh.
day, everyone has a perception of you. Family, friends, everyone that you've worked with, everyone that knows you, get your book, but you run the show. What's your perception of you? Who do you think you are?
I think I'm a person who cares a lot, maybe too much, about, called toxic empathy. I really do care about it, and at this point in my life, I want to structure my life around that. Um, I am described by other people with the word competent. It's not exactly exotic, but I'll take
Right. Yeah,
it. You're competent.
that's high praise. Yeah, totally.
You think it's high?
I
Oh,
do.
good.
I do. I mean, I think in this world, like I mentioned, that is just spiraling out of control, I think
Yeah.
that might be the highest form of social capital we can have. Of
Yes. Yeah, social capital. Yeah, I'd like to be, statuesque and beautiful, and
course.
competent.
So, so if anybody wants to get a copy of the Field Guide for Single Parents,
Yes.
where can they get it? Reach out to you. Any of the other good business, where do they go?
Well, you can go to Amazon where it is now a bestseller. So yay. Thank you,
Yes.
people who've bought it. And,
Congratulations.
it's also in 10% of the libraries. And if your library doesn't have it, ask them to order it.
Exactly.
And it should be out there. The libraries have seen the value of it. You can ask your local bookstore to order it, or you can go to the website, which is pathankin.com, which you may put in the notes.
I will. I will be doing
Um,
that.
yeah, and you can get free downloads and in different templates we give you, like calculating the value of your time. Is something worth doing. I'm a big believer in people of all economic levels outsourcing help,
Yeah.
right? I can prove to you it's cheaper for you to pick up takeout once a week than for you to go crazy.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. And to have someone come in and help you with the housekeeping when you're trying to do a job at the same time. So there's a little calculator in there you can do to say, okay, here's the value of my time.
Yeah.
Can I hire someone for less than that?
Yeah. I love it. Well, I will put all these links in the show notes. Pat, this has been wonderful. Thank you so much.
Oh, it's fun, Joe. It was
Delightful
great. And I
conversation.
love your painting.
Thank you so much.
Did your audience know you did that?
Well, if they asked, yes. And I don't,
Okay.
maybe I should put some denotation on there. I'm real bad about signing with the bottom of the brush, so you can't really see the signature, but maybe I should be more profound and put it out there. So,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Be competent.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Pat, this
Nice
has
to
been
meet
wonderful.
you.